Joe Rogan and Bret Weinstein recently did a podcast together, and they talked about a whole lot of inflammatory topics that once again pissed off the entirety of the woke crowd. Joe Rogan's been doing a whole lot of that recently, and this podcast was no different. You can see this tweet here from Myth Informed says, "I think we are actually headed for extinction." And this is on Joe Rogan. Bret Weinstein explains how the elite are destroying society. We have this clip and then another clip of Joe Rogan and Bret Weinstein just going off on the woke crowd. Let's check out this clip first, and then we'll get into the other one right after.
But to not appreciate the parts of the puzzle that nobody's expert at, right? They're dealing with complex systems layered upon each other. The ability to disrupt that stuff in a way that it stops functioning such that even the elites who make this happen are not going to like the world that they're going to create. They may not even be able to live in it, right? That's the biggest concern I have, right? If I thought that they were diabolical but knew what they were doing, then my sense is, well, all right, we're in for a bad 100 years, and that's terrible, but that's not extinction, right? I think we're actually headed for extinction because I think these people have no idea what they're playing with. They do not understand what needs to be preserved in order to keep the world functional enough for them to live in.
How is that conversation not taking place? That's what doesn't make sense to me.
Well,
is it coming from a place where they never feel like they're ever going to go back to poverty or to any sort of chaotic world that we could envision if everything falls apart? They think they'll be protected ultimately because of resources, influence, power.
That's what I think. You know, that's what I would agree with Joe Rogan there, because think of how many of these elites who are pushing us towards extinction, like Bret Weinstein says, they're all building bunkers, they're all, making shelters for themselves, they're all buying up farmland and getting homesteads set up in remote areas, buying islands, things like that. They're preparing for the worst. So they understand like where they're leading us to. They understand the direction that we're heading in. But like Joe Rogan and Bret Weinstein are saying right here, they're preparing. They feel like they are prepared because they do, like Joe Rogan said, have the resources that we don't have. So the people who are leading us towards this extinction, toward these bad events that could happen in the near future, those are the people who have the resources to deal with those things. Whereas us, we have no control over where we go, and we don't have the resources to prepare. We don't have the resources to survive such thing. And they might not either, but they definitely feel like they do because they are building these shelters, buying up this farmland, buying these private islands, things like that. So like Joe Rogan was saying, they feel like they definitely have the resources to survive some horrible event that they are pushing us towards. But now let's get into this clip, which I think you guys will enjoy quite a bit, where Joe Rogan and Bret Weinstein absolutely destroy wokeism and the entirety of the woke mob. So another tweet here from Myth Informed. It says, "To aspire to a colorblind society is somehow racist. That doesn't make any sense. Joe Rogan and Bret Weinstein discuss how the woke ideology promotes actual racism." Let's check out this clip here, and I think you guys will enjoy this one quite a bit.
But what's fascinating is that they're using this as, like you're saying, to kill the goose that lays the golden egg. They're using all of these utopian social ideas and using them in this very weird authoritarian way. And the people that are most promoting it are the people that are in control of all these systems. These are the people that are in control of the military-industrial complex, the people in control of the pharmaceutical companies. They're the ones that they want this struggle to be going on between people. They want this false sense that white supremacy is the number one problem that we face in America right now.
In a country where we elected a black man twice.
Well, it's just nonsense.
Yeah.
And I think it promotes racism because it makes people that are like on the fence racist angry, and they go the other way.
100%. 100%. I'm from the Deep South, and I can see this all the time. I was raised very much to not be racist at all. Like, that wasn't even a thing. That wasn't a thought that ever crossed my mind. And then I see these same, people who, not in my family or anything, but people who I was around, they're seeing all these things that are happening on social media. They're seeing these white people be demonized and say that every white person's racist, all white people are bad, all cops are bad, stuff like that happening. And then that just pisses them off. And it creates this hatred that didn't exist before. Or with some people, I'm sure out there, it ignites the hatred that did live deep inside, but they kind of let it go over time. Like they kind of said, yeah, it's probably not right to judge someone based on the color of their skin, and then they're judged on the color of their skin over and over and over again. And it's just like, well, why would I take the high road whenever I'm demonized regardless? Whenever I'm called racist regardless, no matter how good of a person I am, no matter how much I don't see color, I get seen the same way. You know, I'm a bad person no matter what. So like Joe Rogan's saying there, it's people who are on the fence, or people who kind of let it go altogether, who are being reignited into feeling this way because they kind of have no choice. They have to in order to defend themselves nowadays. And it's really, really sad, man. It's really sad.
Way they go hard. And there's a bunch of people that feel like they have to be racist because they're being discriminated against and no one cares.
Yep.
And for people that aren't thoughtful and people that don't spend a lot of time and, you know, really consider their position on things, I think they tend to react in a way that is, you know, you're reacting in an impulsive way because you feel threatened. And
it's kind of like you're backed into a corner. It's like kind of when a dog, like the sweetest dog ever, is backed into a corner by a bear who's trying to kill it. Even though the dog is super sweet and it would never hurt anything, it's going to have to hurt something or it's just going to die. You know, it's kind of the same way where you can be the nicest person, the least racist person ever. When you're backed into a corner and you're called a horrible person and a racist over and over and over and over for years and years, and it's just getting worse and worse. No matter how much you prove yourself otherwise, no matter how much you just don't care about that sort of thing, you're being told you're this thing over and over and over. And it's like, well, why am I trying to live a good life when I'm going to be told that I'm this thing anyway? You know, and then you're backed into a corner and it just forces you to act out of character. It forces you to create this hatred out of nothing.
And it's not logical. It doesn't reflect your actual real values of how you really would think about people if everybody would just treated everybody as normal. Everybody is the same thing, you know, and that the idea that even the goal of that itself to aspire to a colorblind society is somehow racist. That doesn't make any sense.
I think it's a pretty good... This is exactly why I'm concerned that these people just don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right? They tried to create racial strife to distract from their bankruptcy, their moral bankruptcy, right? They were staving off the French Revolution by getting us to turn on each other. Well, that worked a little bit for a while, but it also created a lot of interest in talking about what they were up to, and it created an entire alternative media space in which people who didn't want any part of that nonsense actually gained credibility in the public's eyes. People who might never have been heard of in wider circles if not for this. So they didn't anticipate that they were going to create an alternative to the media that they controlled. That's how little they understand.
Yeah, now, like Bret Weinstein was saying to Joe Rogan right there, now there's certain people out there who are making livings off of this division. You know, there's certain people out there who intentionally cause this division because that's how they get paid. You know, I think of people like Dr. Umar, who are basically just professional victims and a professional at telling other people that look like him that they are also victims. Like that is his job now. And now that we've created this alternative media of people on both sides of the aisle saying, you know, we are supposed to be against each other and that's how they get paid, we're kind of too far gone now. Like, it's not ever going to turn around. It's just going to continue to get worse because not only are the elites out there, not only are the people who Joe Rogan and Bret Weinstein were talking about in the previous clip trying to cause this division, but now certain people who are just, you know, they're infantry, they're not part of the elites, they're not pulling the strings, they're infantry, they're inside of the battle, they're also getting paid to continue to divide people. Like, that's what they do for a living now. And yeah, man, it's just getting worse and worse, but it's cool to see people like Joe Rogan and Bret Weinstein be able to discuss these topics very level-headed and just expose the dumbassery that's happening in the world. Let me know in the comments what you thought about both of these clips from Joe Rogan and Bret Weinstein. Let me know if you agree with them or disagree with them, and let me know if you agree with me or disagree with me. If you did enjoy the video, please leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I hope to see you guys on the next one.